Hi everyone, my name is V Van, and I am the principal at Van Houston Academy. Uh, I'm also an SAT instructor. I have coached SAT for over 5 years, since 2016, when the first redesigned SAT test came out. I have coached thousands of students, and a lot of them have improved significantly on tests. So today, we are going to go through the entire writing section on the October 2021 test. Writing section is actually one of the easiest sections on the SAT test. Uh, it's pretty straightforward, very short. They only test you over 10 topics. And if you understand the rules of grammars thoroughly, it's just like a math section where you just plug in formulas. Um, so if you already good at certain sections or topics, you can skip through it. Under this description of this video, I will categorize the question in different topics. So if you feel like you need to work more on sentence placement, you can just click on the questions that about sentence placements. If you're weak on questions like should we add or should we delete this question, this sentence, then you should just click on it. You don't have to walk through the entire video. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so this is question number one. This question is about redundancy. So this is about redundancy. The level of question is easy. So first one, no change. Every Wednesday on a weekly basis. So what's wrong with this choice is every Wednesday means already on a weekly basis. So the weekly basis is not needed. Basically on the SAT writing, you should always go to the shortest choice. If it makes sense, 99%, that is the correct answer. So let's go to the shortest choice first. C, every Wednesday for over 50 years. This choice makes the most sense right here. I think that's the right choice. So look at B, on Wednesday. That is every week. So when you say on Wednesday with an S, that means you talk about every Wednesday. And D, each and every Wednesday. So each means every Wednesday. You don't have to keep repeating that yourself. So the answer is C. Question 2. This is a combined sentences type of question. So what do they test you on this type of question? They test you concision. That means how do you write sentence in the shortest way? Concision. So the idea is you go to the shortest choice, because why do you want to combine two sentences? The only reason is you want to make them shorter. So you go to the shortest choice. If it conveys the exact same ideas from the original two sentences, that will be the right choice. Remember, when you combine sentences, you don't want to change any meaning or any purpose of the original sentences. It has to convey the exact same meaning. So let's go to the, let's go to the shortest answers first. We need to read the two sentences first. So some of the 20th century's greatest composers attended these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings. They were just some of the attendees. So the first sentence just tell you that some of the greatest composers, they went to these gatherings. In the second sentence, it says, so they just some of them, not all attendees, just some attendees. So that's the main idea. Okay, so let's go through all the choices. A, of the attendees at these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings, some of them were among the 20th century greatest composers. B, these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings had attendees. Now, this is a bad choice. The reason is the main idea is they don't want to talk about these have attendees. They just want to say that. So some of the greatest 20th greatest composers, they attended the gathering. So this altered the main idea of the sentence. C, some of the 20th century greatest composers attended because, so here, again, this changed the meaning. So I think C is wrong. So the answer should be between A and D. D, among the attendees to these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings was some of the 20th century's greatest composers. Well, they both convey the same message, but D is shortest and it's actually the best way of writing. So I would go to D. And that's the right answer. So let's go to the next question, number 3. Number 3, so any question that talk about main idea or should we delete, should we add, I gather them all into one topic and I call them relevancy. So relevancy. What does it mean by relevancy? So they just want you to understand, so you want to connect the idea of one sentence to the main idea of the entire paragraph. So if this sentence is related to the main idea, you keep it. But if it's not, you delete it. Basically, that's what it means. So it says which choice best set up the main idea of the next paragraph. So the first step you want to do is you want to read the next paragraph. Okay, so this is the next paragraph. Central to Boulanger's teaching was her insistence that students master the fundamentals of classical music, which to her meant gaining a proficiency in music theory and analysis while cultivating listening skills. So so normally the first sentence has the thesis of the whole paragraph. So the main idea of this paragraph talks about her focus on music theory and skills. So she wants her students to build skills and knowledge before doing anything else. So we want to go through the choices to see which one really kind of relevant to that main idea. So the way I do is let's read that sentence. Boulanger, a gifted performer. So this is where I'm reading. A sentence that has that number 3. Boulanger, a gifted performer and composer in her own right, was famous for her demanding curriculum that stressed not only the obligations. So obligation has nothing to do with knowledge, music theory, and skills. So we're going to cross out A. Now B, advantages of dramatic formats like opera. Again, you want to focus on music theory, to something basic like that, fundamental. So this one is irrelevant. C, importance of musical form. Form and knowledge, basic skills, all of those are in the same line. So I'm going to put a question mark here. I think C is the right choice, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to put a question mark there. And then D, value of learning to play. So she doesn't talk about the value of learning. She just wants her students to focus on basic knowledge and skills. So I think C is the best choice here. Okay, so this is relevancy. Number 4. Number 4 is tense agreement. So the way you do this is you look at the tense of the entire paragraph and see what is the tense the author is using right now, and you want to match with that tense. So by looking through this paragraph, it says central to her teaching was her insistence that student master. So Boulanger used various exercises. So obviously this paragraph is in past tense. So you want to go with past tense. Here, the only choice that is in past tense is B. A is present tense, C is future tense, and then D is past present tense. So you want to stick to past tense only. So the answer is B. Okay. Next one, number 5. Number 5 tests you on the use of apostrophes. This one right here. So there's 2 uses of this. The first use is possessive. So what do I mean? Let's say I say Mr. Van books. So this apostrophe S means the books of Mr. Van. So this means of. Okay. So here we want to see if we need possessive here or not. So let's read this. During private lessons and weekly, I'm starting to read right here. During private lessons and weekly gatherings, Boulanger would lead line by line analysis of famous musical compositions, identifying their structures and what she discerned as their weaknesses as well. So here, none of these needs any possessive at all. So I think this looks good itself. So A is the correct answer. Just a moment of vocab. If you don't know what discern means differentiate, see the difference in their weaknesses. Okay. So discern means differentiate or see the difference. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Number 6. Number 6 is a punctuation type question. Punctuation. I have a video on punctuation grammar in general, so you guys might want to check out the uses of period, colon, semicolon, dashes, and all that stuff. I don't want to cover all of that here. So number 6, from these intensive sections, Boulanger Glass claims that he learned to hear. So here's the very basic rule or a quick tip for you guys. Before and after that, most of the time, there's no punctuations. So you claims what? You can let that what? You need something to complete that sentence, so you cannot put a pause there. And also for you guys, comma normally signal to you that it's something that additional, you don't need it there. But here you do need, he claims what? He claimed that he learned to hear. So that phrase right there is essential. So you cannot put any punctuation between that and whatever follows it. So I know for sure the answer is B, okay? If you put any punctuation, that sentence will be an incomplete sentence. Okay, let's move on. Number 7. This is sentence placement type question. This is the hardest type on the test. Most of my students miss this because you actually have to read the entire paragraph and see where the sentence belongs to. Let's see the flow. Sentence placement, okay? So they want to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 1. So let's read sentence 1. Central to Boulanger's teaching was her insisting that students master the fundamentals of classic music, which to her meant gaining proficiency in music theory, analysis, while also cultivate listening skills. This is a broad type of sentence. So I think normally when it's not a specific type question, so when it's a broad type of sentence, I think either it's a conclusion or it's the opening sentence. The type that goes in the middle is supporting evidence, so it's more specific. So I want to see, it should be either here or after sentence 4. So I'm going to just test out after sentence 4. From these intensive sections, Glass claims that he learned to hear. Central in her teaching, I don't think it fits at the end, so I don't think it's there. Let's check out after sentence 2. Boulanger used various exercises to drill her students in music basics such as harmony. So this is more going to more specific. I know that before it, you need something more broad to capture the main idea. So I'm very confident that the answer is A. Number 8. Number 8 is again punctuation. Okay, so let's see. Number 8. Normally to do this, I read about 1 or 2 sentences before just to grasp what are they talking about. So in the 1968 composition 2 pages, for example, a pattern of 5 notes is repeated for 18 dizzying minutes. Jones, one of the few jazz musicians to study with Boulanger, went on to compose dozens of film scores and produce some of the most iconic pop albums. This question tests you a positive. What do I mean by a positive? This is a phrase to add details, to a noun. So, or in my SAT class, I use the term non-essential clause. Okay, so non-essential. What does that mean? It means that it's not needed in the sentence. It just provides more information. And you can just cross it out and it still makes perfect sense. So here, this whole thing is non-essential clause or a positive. And normally you put 2 commas around that phrase to signal to a reader that this is just additional information. So here it says, if you say Jones went on to compose dozens of films, it still makes perfect sense. So you normally separate a positive or the non-essential clause using 2 commas or 2 dashes or 2 parentheses, okay? So any of those is fine. But the rule is you either have 2 commas or you have no commas. No commas means it's essential. You need to keep it there. So here, I'm very sure the answer has to be A because it has 1 comma here. It has to end with a comma. Okay. The answer is A. Number 9. Number 9 is again what I call relevancy. When you group the type of questions in certain category, it's easier for you guys to review. So keep that habit, okay? So anything that says which choice best support the information that follows in the sentence. So they're asking you which one relevant to whatever follows in the sentence. So the way I do is I read whatever follows in the sentence, okay? See what it says. So to Boulanger, let's keep that because we don't know if it's right or not. So let's read what follows. It was only natural her pupils would take such diverse paths and make such unique music. So talking about her students going on, and each of them go their own path, and they create unique, something that's different from everyone else. Let's see which choice says that. A. So Boulanger, who once taught the composer musical, so this is out of context, okay? It isn't talking about anything unique or different for her students. B, held that one must first master the rules of composition before breaking them. Again, this is talking about uniqueness. So B has nothing to do with that. C, taught for years at, again, who cares, okay? This is so very irrelevant. D, believe that composers must find ways to, you see the phrase, the verb, individuate themselves. That means you want them to go on their own way and make themselves unique. So I'm very sure the answer choice is D. And this is an easy question. Number 10. Number 10 is, so again, they test you on word choice, okay? Confusing words, actually. Word choice, okay? Or confusing word. So here, well, we want to talk about the difference between past and past. So one of them is an adjective and one of them is a verb. Okay, so we're talking about, or this could be a noun. So we're talking about the past or past exam. So the exam in the past. Okay, so this is an adjective. And then we want to pass this on to someone else, or let's say I want to pass the ball. Okay, so that's a verb. Let's see which one should go here. So above all, Bulenga was truly dedicated music, and so we have a subject. Obviously, it has to be a verb, right? So we know A and B are wrong. So she passed, and when you use pass, we use preposition on. Okay, pass on a legacy, and obviously the answer is C. Okay, so let's move on. Number 11. Okay, the writer wants a conclusion. Again, conclusion is normally the hardest type of question, but this is also relevancy. We want to choose whatever relevant to the main idea of the entire passage, because this is talking about conclusion. You want to talk about her legacy. So if you go back to the entire passage and read them yourself, you see that, well, it's been talking about how she taught her. At first, she emphasized on her students have to follow rules, uh, have to build basic theory and knowledge and skills, listening skills and stuff like that. And then they went on and become very unique, and very creative. So we're talking about how she left a legacy, a group of students who become great musicians themselves. Okay. So if you see, it was no Lamp who would take a diverse path and make such unique music. And let's just read the conclusion to see and capture the whole thing. Above all, she was truly dedicated music, and she passed on a legacy of musical devotion to several generations of composers. She faithfully said, "Fault notes can be forgiven, false music cannot." And Boulanger. So we want to choose whatever choice that talks about how her legacy leaves a group of musicians that are creative and unique themselves. So so here A says became renowned more for her teaching than her own musical compositions. Okay, well that could be true. Okay, but we see it doesn't talk about her students. Okay, I'm gonna put a question mark here. B will long be remembered her formidable knowledge. Well, it doesn't talk about her knowledge at all. It talks about her students and the way that she taught her students. C, uh, taught her pupils the foundational skills that allow them to be trailblazers through their own creative impulse. Well, this is exactly what and capture whatever I just said. Talk about this. Boulanger emphasized on providing her student with strong knowledge, theory, and skills. And also, she wanted them to go on to be creative, to be unique themselves, and see and capture all that. I'm very sure that's the right answer. Okay, so I will move on. Let's just check D. Never claim to be an inspired creative student. This is out of context. So move on. So relevancy type of question, always ask yourself, what is the bigger picture? Zoom out. What is the main idea of the whole thing? And if that sentence is relevant to the main idea, that is the right choice. Number 12. Number 12, again, like this is a very common type of question on the test. They want you to understand the apostrophe here, or so the difference between it's and it's, or they and their. So this is a contraction. So this means it is. This means possessive. This is also contraction. They are. And this is possessive. Okay, let's see. So which one is correct? Okay, I need to scroll up a little bit. Okay, so dating rocks. When a fossilized millipede called Pneumodesmus pneumani was discovered in Scotland in 2004, something estimated age led researchers. So this is a noun itself. Okay. So this is a noun itself. Can't write. I can't write. So that's a noun itself. So you cannot put it's there because that doesn't make sense. You cannot put it is estimated age. Okay, you want to say the age, the estimated of something. So this is possessive. So let's say the whose estimated age. We want to know if it's plural or singular. So when a fossilized, so we want to talk about this, and this is singular. So you want to go for it. Okay, the answer is D. Okay. And when in doubt, just please, when you have contraction, please spell it out. It is, and read it to yourself to see if it makes sense. If you say it is estimated age, that doesn't make sense because you have two verbs in the same sentence. Okay. So number 13, this is a pronoun agreement. Okay. When it comes to pronoun agreements, what you want to do is you want to see what does the pronoun replace, because you only use pronoun when it replaces something. Okay. And you determine yourself is it plural or singular. So the way you do it is you want to replace here in what. Okay. So let's read that sentence. And if you can fill it in, there's no way for you to miss this question. So it would take the efforts of a determined University of Texas student to show in a flaw in it. Well, or even in them. Here, there's no way, it's impossible to, because they haven't mentioned anything yet. So you cannot use a pronoun here. So the answer has to be B in this hypothesis. You only use pronoun when you mention something and you don't want to repeat it, you replace it with a pronoun. Here, you haven't used any nouns yet, so you cannot use a pronoun here. So you have to actually say it out. This hypothesis. It will take efforts of a determined University of Texas student to show a flaw in this hypothesis. Okay. Number 14. This one, again, it talks about which choice most combines sentences. Again, you want to go to the shortest choice first. If it makes sense, if it conveys the exact same message from the two sentences, you go for that. I'm looking at C right now. So let's read the two sentences. The fossil was initially dated to around 428 million years ago. This dating of fossil was based on the abundance of period-specific plant spores found in nearby sediments. Okay, so let's read that using choice C, the shortest choice. The fossil was initially dated to around 428 million years ago, based on the abundance. Well, that's actually a good sentence if you put C there. Let's read it out to you again. The fossil was initially dated to around 428 million years ago, based on the abundance of periods. So they dated this based on what? So I think C is right for sure. Okay, so let me just double check. It is C, okay? So it has to be C. So again, the trick to those combining sentences is you go to the shortest choice. If it's grammatically correct and it conveys the same message from the two sentences, It's always the right choice. Okay, moving on. Number 15. Well, this tests you, what is it called? Punctuation again. So let me read this. So professor, so what I'm reading here, just want to make sure that you guys follow what I read. Professor Elizabeth Catlos of the Jackson School of Geosciences at the University of Texas at Austin knew that radiometric analysis could provide a more accurate age, but such analysis had not been performed because researchers were unable to extract whatever. Okay, so let's go back to this. So professor of Jackson School at Austin, so you cannot put any comma here at all, okay? Because if you want to put a comma here, there has to be a comma somewhere here. So to signal that there's some kind of a positive or non-essential clause. But here, there's no punctuation. So all this phrase is the subjects, okay? And when you have a subject with the verb, you cannot put any punctuation around it. So I know that the answer has to be C, which we already said. Okay. Number 16. Okay, so it's the same sentence. Let's read this. So this professor knew that radiometric analysis could provide a more accurate age, but such analysis had not been performed because researchers were unable to extract the necessary mineral that they require. So this one tests you redundancy. When I read this, I know there's redundancy here. Redundancy, something extra that you don't need, you need to get rid of. So necessary means required. So we know that A is wrong. So with this, they extract the mineral they needed to extract for analysis. Again, they already says this is too much. C is the shortest choice. I'm about 99% sure is right. Just want to make sure that D, necessarily needed, necessarily means needed. So D is wrong as well. So they're all redundant. The only answer is C. C is more concise, okay? Number 17. Now, this is also a punctuation type question, okay? Punctuation. Spelled punctuation wrong. Punctuation. Okay, so let me read this. I'm gonna start reading in that sentence. Catlos believed that zircon grains or zircons would be found in the sample. She asked her student Stephanie Suarez to find them. So this phrase right here, add more details to this. Okay, we could call it apostrophe. It adds details to the noun. The question is, first of all, B is wrong because it's a semicolon. You only use a semicolon to separate two independent clause. Independent clause. Okay, and this is, if you use a semicolon here, you say samples and then you say and as a student. So that's not independent clause. Independent clause means a complete sentence. So we know for sure is wrong. Now C, let's look at C. If you put a comma here, okay, so it say Catlos believed that zircon could be found in the samples, and then you put a comma. She asked her student to find them. Now, what's wrong with this? If you put a comma here, so all of this is an independent clause or a complete sentence, and here it says she asked her students. Oh no, that's not S. Okay, sorry, I read it wrong. No. So if you put a comma here without she, ask her students, that's just wrong. I'm very sure C is wrong. Okay, That just doesn't make any sense. And then D, is a comma and a conjunction or fanboys. So when do we use a comma and a conjunction of fanboys? In my video, it tells you that, what is it called? You use a comma and fanboys to separate two independent clauses. The use of a comma and fanboys is exactly the same as a period or semicolon. So let's see if this is right. So samples, and she asked her students. So those two are actually two independent clauses. So you have to separate them using a semicolon, comma and fanboys, or period. A is a run-on sentence. Okay, what is a run-on? A run-on is a sentence in which you have two sentences in it without any punctuation, correct punctuation. So I'm very sure the answer has to be D. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Oops. Okay, so this is another punctuation type question right here. So number 18. So this technique worked, yielding numerous grains of zircon from two of the beds. So here again, I told you guys this, when you use a semicolon, it means two independent clauses. And here, the second sentence is not an independent clause, it's just a fragment. So we cannot use a semicolon here. B, if you say this technique worked, it yielded, okay? Again, it yielded something, that is actually an independent clause. When you have an independent clause, comma, independent clause, this is what's called a comma splice, which is wrong. You cannot do this, a comma splice. Okay, so B is wrong. And again, I told you guys this already, when you use a comma, so D is wrong as well. Why? Because a comma and a conjunction or fanboys, it has to have two independent clauses, and yielding something is not an independent clause. So the answer is C. And here, all of this yielding, all that stuff is it's just extra information. Okay, you don't need it there. Number 19. Okay, again, this is sentence placement. Number 19. The writer wants to add the following sentence to this paragraph, and best placement is where. So let's read the sentence first. She first tried to separate zircons from volcanic ash in the samples by crushing the minerals up and applying an organic solvent, but this method proved ineffective. Okay, so let's read sentence one. Let's read each sentence, see where it fits. Suarez received soil samples from 3 beds near the one where the millipede fossil was found. So previous paragraph, it talks about the zircon could be found in samples, and she asked her student Stephanie to find them. And this continued perfectly with this. So I know it cannot be the beginning. Okay. So it has to be not A. Okay. So sentence 2, it says the ashes clumped together. Well, this sentence has talked about the ash. So she first tried to separate zircons from volcanic ash. And here it starts talking about the ashes. I know this one, it doesn't mention the ash anywhere, okay, before the sentence, so there's something missing. This is called an anchor. You guys, when you do placements, sentence placements, always look for that anchor. Is it mentioned anywhere? If it's not, there's something missing. It needs to be mentioned somewhere first, okay? So I know it has to be B after sentence 1, right before sentence 2. That makes a lot of sense, okay? Number 20. Okay, so this one is just reading data. This is like a math question right here. Make sure that you read the data correctly. So what does it say? However, they also discovered that some were much younger. including a grain in bed 16 COW3 dated to something million years ago. Okay, so grains in bed 16 COW3. So just look at the years. Fourth, so let me see. So which one has this? Okay, 420 is not in there. 413.8, no. 414.3, yeah, right there. That matches with this 418. Okay, so I know for sure you just have to match with the table. Okay, very easy. So the answer is C. Next one. So this one is another chart and data question. Again, this is like a math question. You just have to read the table, can match and compare. So number 21, a total of 2 grains. Okay, we're not gonna read that. Okay, so see what it talked about. A total of something dated to Devonian period, which lasted from 419.2 to 358.9 million years. Now we just have to see which one is within this range. Okay, so 419. So this one, yes, 1, 2, 3. Not this. Not this. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all this, not this. Okay, so we want to find each of them. So there's 3 in here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in there. Okay, see which one says that. 3 grains and 7 in it. So that's the only thing that makes sense. There you go. Okay, so that's exactly how you do it. This is like a math question right here. Moving on, number 22. Which choice most effective concludes the passage? Okay, so this question is about relevancy again, and again tells about which one conclude the whole passage. That means that we have to understand what is this whole passage talking about. I'm gonna just take you back to the each paragraph and just see what is the main idea of his entire passage. Okay, so when a fossilized millipede, so that's an animal called Nemodesmus pneumani, was discovered, its estimated age, let's conclude that it could be the oldest air-breathing animal. It would take the efforts from a University of Texas student to show a flaw in this hypothesis. So they had this hypothesis that, well, fossilized millipede was the kind of oldest air-breathing animal. But then it says that it would take an effort from this student to show a flaw. That means it's not right. Okay, so let's go to so all of the whole passage, they present to you the study of that students. So let's see the conclusion. Since the Devonian is already known to have given rise to the other air-breathing animals, the presence of grains from this period around the fossil indicated that Pneumodesmus pneumani is not the oldest, so it's not the oldest air-breathing animal. Together with Catlos and other 2 scientists, Suarez published her results in the journal. Thanks to Suarez. So let's say which one talks about, well, they want to find out if this thing is the oldest breathing air animal or not. So which one says that? 22. A, the search for the oldest air now continues. So that means they haven't found it yet. I'm gonna put a question mark here. Okay. B, the tricky problem now extract zircons was solved. Now this is too specific. They extract zircons and all that stuff just to prove that, well, this thing is not the oldest one, oldest air-breathing animal. So this one is not relevant to the main idea. C, important data about the Devonian period were discovered. Who cares about this, okay? We just want to prove that millipede is not, the Pneumodesmus pneumani is not the oldest air-breathing animal. So D, researchers have a new reason to be interested in sensorial events. Okay, and this is irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is A, which is the search for the oldest air-breathing animal now continues. And that makes sense. Okay, so the answer is A. Right there. 23. So this question is about punctuation as well, okay? Punctuation. And here I'm seeing colon, okay? When do you use colon and how do you use it? The only rule I want you to remember is this. Before a colon, you must have an independent clause, a complete sentence. After the colon, something has to be describing the thing before it, okay? The noun before this. So it has to be relevant. And it could be anything. It could be a phrase, a fragment, a sentence. It doesn't matter. But the most important rule is before a colon, you must have an independent clause. Okay, so let's read this. In the workplace, managers' expectations regularly become self-fulfilling prophecies. For better or worse, employees end up performing like their managers believe they will. Now, if you go with A, which is a comma here, so all of this sentence right here, so all of that is an independent clause, a complete sentence. And all of this is another independent clause. So that's another independent clause. If you put an independent clause, comma, another independent clause, this is called a comma splice, which is bad. So A is wrong. B, you put nothing. Again, you put an independent clause, another independent clause here, okay? With nothing, this is a run-on, okay? Which is bad. C, you have a colon right here. Let's ask yourself, is the thing before the colon an independent clause? Let's read that. Managers' expectations regularly become, and you do this. So before that, it's not a complete sentence. So C is wrong. The only answer choice that makes sense is D. Become self-fulfilling prophecies, and you put a column here. All of this explain to you what is that prophecies, okay? That prophecies means employees end up performing like whatever the managers believe they will. So that's explained to you very clearly. What does it mean by self-fulfilling prophecies? Therefore, the answer is D. Number 24. So number 24 is pronoun agreements. Pronoun agreement. That means, what do you use for pronoun? Agreement. Okay. So let me read this. Researchers have long known both that positive managerial expectations can lead to increased employee performance and that supervisors often have difficulty communicating such beliefs, especially if something not sincerely held. So the way you do this is you want to place in the word itself, something not sincerely held, not sincerely held. Sincerely held. Okay, so what were not held? Very sure it's the beliefs. If the beliefs were not sincerely held, okay, so it's plural, we know that it's not A, B, or C, it has to be D. If they are not sincerely held, if the beliefs are not sincerely held, okay, so it is D. Number 26. Okay, I think this is word choice 25. Wait, hang on, number 25. Okay, for example, subtle nonverbal signals such as facial expressions operate on a subconscious level, betraying. So we're talking about so if the beliefs were not held, right? So for example, subtle nonverbal signal, so face expressions operate on a subconscious level. You want to betray the boss' true feelings. you don't want to show the boss true feelings. So it's not A. Okay. Because the beliefs were not held. So something opposite, right? So I think it's B. So beyond the level, this is too much, okay? These signals betray, okay? There's nothing wrong with this. It's just too much, too redundant. I think it's B, okay? Level betraying. So it's the shortest choice. It makes sense. Well, the writers want to add the following sentence to this paragraph. Again, this is sentence placement. Okay, let's read the sentence first. Thus, managers' words may tell one story and their faces another. Oh, this follows the example that we talked about. So it follows this example. For example, subtle nonverbal signals. So this one right here. So for example, subtle nonverbal signals such as face expression operate on a subconscious level, betraying the boss's true feelings. And then here, this one follows very nicely with that. So the words may tell a story, but then the faces show something else. I'm very sure it's C after sentence 3. Okay. So this question, well, it's easy. It just tests you to understand if this is a question or is this a statement. So let's read this. In the 1960s, an experiment at Metropolitan Life Insurance company demonstrated how, so I'm pretty sure this is a statement, it's not a question. So we know for sure that C and A are wrong, okay? So, well, if it's a statement, you should say how ambitious goals can powerfully, so which one says that? Can powerfully communicate positive expectations. This is an easy question. So the answer is D. So number 28, which choice most effectively supports the idea in the previous sentence? So this is also a relevancy type question. That means you choose whatever relevant to the idea in the previous sentence. So what do you read first? You read the previous sentence, okay? So what is the previous sentence? In the 1960s, okay? This is the previous sentence right here. In the 1960s, an experiment at Metropolitan Life Insurance Company demonstrated how ambitious goals can powerfully communicate positive expectations. So it talks about when you have ambitious goals with your employees, then it communicates to employees that you have really positive expectations for them. So that's the idea. Now we want to choose the choice that convey that same idea. Ambitious goals means great expectations for your employees. One of the company's district managers selected his 6 best insurance agents, placed them under the leadership of his best assistant manager, and tasked the group with a lofty sales goal. Okay, this is A, which acted as a clear sign of management confidence in the group's abilities. So they give them good goals with positive expectations. So they have confidence in the group abilities. That means they have positive expectations. I think this is right, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna put a question mark there. B, so lofty sales goal. The manager would report the results of experiments at an industry meeting. So we don't care about the reported results. They just want to talk about, so when you have ambitious goals, that means you have confidence or great expectation for your employees. I don't think B is right. C, so lofty sales goal. Sale goals are typically set once the market potential product. So this one is irrelevant as well. Talk about market potential. That's out of place. D, as part of a plan based on managers' observations of trends at various. When we talk about the managers' observations of other agencies, this is irrelevant. I'm very sure the answer is A. Okay. So again, this is relevancy. Number 29, which choice most effectively combines the sentences at the underlying portion? So again, concisions, okay? So we're gonna go to the shortest choices. There's two shortest choices we wanna look at. It's A and C. Okay, so people within the company began referring this group as the super staff. The 6 agents who made up the group perform accordingly. Okay, so A says, and the 6 agents perform. So this is good. I'm gonna put a question mark here. Let's look at C. The staff, the 6 agents performed. Okay, so the structure, a comma and a conjunction is the same as the semicolon. So these they're the same. Let's see the difference between this. So they, the 6 agent. So this is something a little bit too extra. You don't need to say they and then you specify the 6 agent. You can just really say the 6 agent. This is shorter, straight to the point. I'm very sure the answer is A. And let's just double check B and C, B and D. Staff and the group made of 6 agents. You don't need to repeat this, okay? We know that group they mentioned before, so those are the 6 agents, and then D with the agents, all 6 of them. This is 2 extra. So number 30 is about relevancy as well. Relevancy. What does that mean? So I say, do you want to keep or delete the sentence? Right here, the portion of the sentence. So you're going to ask yourself, what is this sentence about? Is this relevant or not? If it's relevant, you always keep it. If it's not relevant, you don't keep it. Simple as that. So let's read this. Providing employees with learning opportunities, also communicate positive expectations, such as because such activities signal to employees that they possess skills and ability worth developing. So this sentence talk about you want to give employees learning opportunities, chance to learn more, right? So let's see this underlying portion to see is it relevant or not, such as attending professional conference or taking an online course. Well, this is very relevant to learning opportunities. So we know for sure that we want to keep it. Okay, so it's either A or B. So kept because it clarifies the main point by offering example. Yes. Kept because it provides valid counterpoint. Counterpoint means something, or what is it called? Something opposite. This is wrong. I'm very sure the answer is A. Number 31. So this is subject-verb agreement. So I'm going to read the sentence. However, okay, this is where I'm reading. However, the research team noted that some bosses were biased. They make these activities available only to employees they consider have potential, a behavior that risk creating situation. So this is subject-verb agreement. The only thing you need to do is ask yourself, what is the subject that is doing this action? So risk. The way that I have a student do is create a blank, fill in the blank. What risk? Okay, what risk creating a situation like that? And here you read that the behavior. Okay, a behavior, risk, that risk. Okay, so ask yourself, is this singular or plural? A behavior, so this is singular. Okay, so you want risk. Very simple. So that's exactly how you deal with subject-verb agreement type sentence. 32. Number 32 is transitional words or phrases. So how you want to read the previous sentence and the next sentence to see what is the relationship between them so that you can determine what will be the best transition. So the previous sentence, it says this. However, the research team noted that some bosses were biased. They make these activities available only to employees they consider to have high potential. Behavior that risk creating a situation in which employees considered to have low potential fail to develop their skills. And then ignore the transition, otherwise you're going to be confused. Supervisors should make these experiences available to all. So previous sentence talks about, well, some bosses were biased. And then the second sentence is talking about supervisors should, they give us suggestions, should make these experiences available. So they're kind of opposite, contrasting in a way. So which one says that? Indeterminate employees' potential. So that doesn't say anything about it. In spite of inevitable failure. So if you want to say, in spite of this, you want to continue with something good about the bias, but no, here it says you should do something else. Okay. Though some skills are more difficult to learn, it has nothing to do with this. D, it says to avoid this pitfall. So this pitfall is the fact that the employers, the bosses were biased. So you want to avoid this. So you should make the experiences available to all. And that's the only thing that makes sense here. So the answer is D. Well, this is a kind of easy question, so we don't want to spend too much time on it. The evidence is clear. Managers and staff alike benefit from atmosphere that expectations are high. So here, you want to say you are in the atmosphere. So you want to use preposition in here. So in which, what makes the most sense here? Okay, it's kind of obvious. So I want to move on. (34). This is word choice. Okay. So this question is word choice question. You actually to make sure that you choose the right choice, the right word in this case. So we have four choices here. We have four words. Pledge. Pledge means you promise something by law. Asserted. Assert means you want to state something really strongly, a belief actually, or you want to state something really strongly. Demand is you ask people to do something for you. And divulge is reveal something, a secret, for example. I divulge my plan to do this. Okay, so let's see what do you want to say. In his 1928 dissent on the case of Olmsted versus United States, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis pledged that phone conversations are privacy. So here he's announced that, okay, he's stating that the phone conversations are subject to privacy protections. So the right choice here is he just announced to the world strongly. He's a Supreme Court justice. So it is B. Number 35 is a vocabulary type question as well. And here you just have to memorize this actually. When you say something is subject to something, let's say the price is subject to change. Okay, let's say you set a price and you say this, so customers know this is not fixed. So the phrase is something is subject to something. Okay, so if you know this, the answer is D. It's never subjected to something. Okay, a lot of kids fall for this kind of trap. Oh, so it's passive voice, so you should be is subjected to change, and they would choose A. But the right phrase is subject to change, or to, in this case, to privacy protections. 36. So this question is the tone of the writing. So pretty much all SAT writings, reading or writing, is normally formal. So you always go to the most formal choice. Anything that's slang, anything that's too casual, those are always wrong. Okay, so here, let's read this. So Brandeis' argument is a key precedent for modern legal interpretations of the Fourth Amendment. Well, This sounds very good. So I think it's A, but let's check the other choices. B, for lawyer type thinking is too casual. These days, the things legal bigwigs, no. The law that pundits have reckoned lately regarding too long, A is the best choice. Okay, very clear. So this question number 37 is a sentence placement type question, okay? So it says, to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 5. So let's read sentence 5, suitably placed where? However, the US Constitution makes no explicit reference to such privacy. So there's two anchor words that you want to look at. So when you do sentence placement, always look for those anchor words, the transitional words. And so, however, that means something has to be contrast before this and also reference such privacy. That means it has to mention some type of privacy before the sentence. Okay, so where it is now, let's see, that means after sentence 4, to see if it's right. According to law, so sentence 4. According to law, professor decide the guarantee can principally be ascribed not to the Constitution, but rather to early history of U.S. Postal Service and judicial reverberations of that history through time. Well, I've never mentioned about anything privacy. Definitely not that. After sentence 1, in his 1928 dissent on the case of this, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis asserted that phone conversations are subject to privacy protections, which prohibits this and this. Well, they clearly are stating very specifically about this. So I don't think this is. I don't think this should be. However, U.S. no, this doesn't follow this. So after sentence 2, Brandeis' argument is a key precedent for modern interpretations of Fourth Amendment. Indeed, the influence of his argument. So 3 and 2 has to be following together because here we're talking about him and now the influence of his argument. So sentence placement, you always look for the link between two sentences that you cannot break them. That way you can eliminate that choice. So it cannot go after sentence 2, okay? Because 2 and 3 has to go together. So that's eliminating one choice for you. Let's look at 3. Indeed, the influence of his argument has been so widespread that many in the United States today assume that Fourth Amendment plainly guarantees a right to privacy of communications. And let's read this. However, the U.S. Constitution makes no explicit reference to such privacy. Well, this follows very nicely here. I know the answer is D. So number 38 is a relevancy type question as well. Well, you guys notice there's a lot of relevancy type question. Again, let's read this. Which choice most effectively develops the information earlier in the sentence and set up the information in the sentence that follows? So you want to focus on two information earlier and information in the sentence that follows. Just read those. So earlier, as tensions between loyalists and revolutionaries escalated during the 1770s, the British-controlled colonial postal service became an increasing source of concern. In response to this anxiety, so there's the concern, in response to this anxiety, the Second Continental Congress established an independent mail service that provides safeguards for confidentiality, so privacy, such as whatever. So they want to provide safeguards for confidentiality. That means your privacy is protected. You want to choose a choice to say that, okay? Something about privacy. So A, even though the American Secretary Lord Dartmouth wanted to avoid going to war, it doesn't say anything about war. But new taxation measures, okay, doesn't say anything about tax. With colonists, both affiliations fearing access to like private communications. So we're talking about privacy. I think this is right. D, and Benjamin Franklin's partner newspaper published William was one of vocal critic. Who cared about this? Okay, so I know for sure it's C. Number 39 is a subject-verb agreement. Okay, so first of all, so I told all my students, before you do subject-verb agreement, identifying what is subject, what is a verb, you want to look at the tense first to see if the tense agreed. So what is the tense of this paragraph? You read this, you see that, so postal service became an increasing source of concern, the established, so all this is in past tense. When postal was founded, had been ratified, guaranteed private mail was established, so all this is in past tense, past. So we want to go to the choice of past tense. The only choice of past tense is provided. We know for sure it's C. And some people ask me, why is it not A? This is the past tense, so it's something that happened before the past. So most of the time it is wrong. So here it's just simply past tense. Okay. So this is also a relevancy type question. It says, which choice give it for supporting example that is most relevant to the sentence? So we notice the whole sentence talk about safety, safeguard for confidentiality. That means protection for privacy. So we want to choose a sentence example that says that. A, it says provision that mail for delivery to be under lock and key. So that's protection for privacy. I think it's A. But let's check out B, C, and D. Service to perform 13 colonies. That's out context. And then C, delivery 6 days out of the week. Nobody cares about frequency. Appointment of Benjamin as first postal. Who cares about whoever the postmaster is? We just worry about the protection for privacy. So the answer is A. Okay, so move on. Okay, so number 41 is a, what is it called? I think it is a punctuation. And I think I told you that before that and after that, you never have any punctuation. So the only choice that says that is B. Okay, note that. Decide note that legal guarantee above was KK. Okay. So I'm very sure that's the right answer. Let me just check. Okay. Number 42. U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. So I'm reading here. U.S. Supreme Court justices, those who eventually held certain forms of well, it's kind of easy. So U.S. Supreme Court justices who eventually held that certain forms of surveillance drew a tradition of protections derived from colonial experience. Okay, so you don't need to use those. So, and when you use a comma here, I tell you, if you use a comma here, those who eventually held that certain, you need a comma here. So a signal that this is non-essential, a positive. But this phrase is actually essential. We want to talk about the specific type of churches, okay? Who are those? Those are the one that eventually held certain that drew on tradition. So D is correct. Okay, so this is a transitional word type question, transitions. So we just have to read what's before and what's after, okay? Okay, so let's start reading from here. In the 1878 case, ex parte Jackson, Justice Stephen Johnson Field crucially extended the meaning of papers in the Fourth Amendment to include seal letters in the postal system, making postal policy a constitutional principle. Moreover, means you want to add new ideas. This is not new idea, okay? Including that seal letters, this is the cause and effect type of relationship between these two, okay? So we want to choose thus, cause and effect. Thus means therefore, means hence, okay? Conversely means you want to talk about something opposite. Meanwhile is a contrast type of relationship, okay? Well, we didn't do 43. We did 43, now 44. Modifier 44 is a modifier types of questions. Okay, modifier. That means the modifier is modifying for what subjects? Let's read this. In grappling with questions surrounding 21st century, so I'm reading here. In grappling with questions surrounding 21st century methods. Okay, so courts will likely continue to be influenced by decisions made by colonial times. B, it is by decision made by colonial times. So here, in grabbing this is modifier. We want to ask yourself, who grapple with questions? Of course, the courts, right? So let's say, so the courts are the ones that grappling with questions. Not it is because you don't know, you haven't even say anything now, so you cannot use a pronoun. You only use a pronoun when you mention something. So C, decision made in colonial times. So if you choose this, that means the decision grappling with questions, okay? So this is wrong. And then D, the influence on courts. Again, the influence cannot grapple with questions. The only choice that makes sense is A, because then here we say the courts who grapple with questions surrounding, they will be likely to be influenced. Therefore, the answer is A. So this is a modifier. Just ask yourself, what is the subject for this modifier? Okay, what is this modifying to? Cool. So that's the end of our walkthrough of the writing test, October 2021. Again, if you have any question, please email me. And the email is in the description. And please subscribe to my channel and you will receive more videos. Bye for now.